Hi, I'm Carol Fenster. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're making pizza. No matter whether you like pepperoni or maybe your taste leans toward vegetarian, it doesn't matter because the pizza crust I'm going to show you today will work for any flavor of pizza you like. Now you'll find the recipe on my website at carolfenster.com, but it's in all of my cookbooks as well, including my latest one, Gluten-Free 101. I like to assemble my dry ingredients beforehand because it really makes it quick to make pizza. This is the flour blend. I'm using brown rice, potato starch, and tapioca. Also in there is salt and sugar and some Italian seasoning, which will really make the pizza taste good. I'm adding my yeast has already been, and sugar have also been kind of foaming in here. I'm going to add that, and we'll make sure we get all of the good yeast. And then finally, some ingredients that people are sometimes surprised about is olive oil and then a little bit of vinegar. And that helps the acid in the vinegar helps boost the yeast action. So I like to blend it here in a food processor because it blends it so thoroughly and so quickly. So here's what the dough looks like. As you can see, it's actually extremely soft, much softer than we might expect for pizza dough. Sometimes it will gather on one side of the food processor. So here's what the dough looks like. As you can see, it's extremely soft, much softer than you would probably ever think pizza dough should be, but that's the way we want it for gluten-free pizza. So what I'm going to do is put it out onto my greased pan. As you can see, the dough is really soft. I'm spreading it on a 12-inch pan because it's exactly the right amount of dough to cover it. And I like the non-stick rather than black or the shiny kind or any kind of pizza stone, because this is just the right amount of browning to take place to make the dough nice and firm. Here's the secret to handling this super soft dough. It's called a flour shaker, and inside is brown rice flour. I've had this one forever. It's an old friend. The kind you'll see in stores now is more likely looking like this, the stainless steel. But basically you put brown rice flour inside like this, and then it shakes out through the little holes, and it helps you be able to touch the dough and not stick to it. And it doesn't make the dough dry or anything like that. So again, this is going to look like not nearly enough dough. People will call me and say, are you sure there's enough dough for this pizza? And yes, I'm sure. And it will take a little while, especially if you are first learning how to handle the dough. It may seem like it'll take forever, but you'll get the hang of it. You can see how soft this is. My goal is to keep pushing the dough away from the center over to the edges in as evenly a fashion as I can. It's important that you press the dough to just as even of a thickness as you possibly can, because if the dough is thinner in one place than another, it's going to cook more quickly and possibly brown, and you don't want that. So just be patient. This will take a little bit, but as I said earlier, the more you do this, and I hope you go home and make lots of pizzas, you'll get really adept at it, and it will just sort of be second nature. I like to push the pizza right up to the edge of the pan and kind of allow it to rise ever so slightly up, and that kind of forms a little bit of a rim to kind of help keep your toppings in check so they won't go rolling off or over the edge, and it just makes for a little bit of a prettier crust, because as this rises, the outside edges will get just a little higher, and it will just look like a pretty pizza. And you need to make it as even as you possibly can, because what you see here is what you get. If I have one of these edges a little higher than the other, it's going to rise more, and it's going to look like a little bit of a lopsided pizza. Gluten-free pizza dough is a little different than regular dough in that it's wise to bake it for the first 10 minutes or so on the bottom rack of the oven. And that way it browns the bottom of the pizza crust and allows for a much crisper bottom and avoids some of the sogginess that we often get with baking. Okay, our pizza has baked on the bottom rack to brown the bottom of the crust for roughly 15 minutes or so. And here we have it. You can see it's browning. If you were to pick up the bottom, you would see it's browning on the bottom a little bit. The next step is to top this sort of par-baked crust with our toppings. So the first thing I'm going to put on is a pizza sauce. There's a recipe for the sauce, and along with all of my pizza crusts, But first, you know what I want to do? This crust is brown, but I think I'd like it to look a little bit browner. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. It will make for a little bit shinier crust if you like that, and it might brown a little more deeply. And this is a baster that I really like. They're made of silicone, and they're really easy to clean, which is really important in a gluten-free household. Okay, back to our sauce. The pizza sauce recipe is on with all my pizza recipes, but it's basically tomato sauce and lots of wonderful fragrant herbs. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, we're going to make a pepperoni pizza today. You can either put the pepperoni on first or after the cheese. I'm going to put it on first. There. And then finally cheese. And this is mozzarella cheese. There's lots of different cheeses you can use for pizza. I just like the plain old mozzarella. Well, if you have any basil on hand, a really pretty thing to do is to add maybe just a little bit of chopped basil. It just adds a pretty bit of green, and it's so Italian. You don't need to add a lot, but I think it adds a pretty touch. The pizza will be delicious without it, but we're going to add it today. Okay, so there's our fully dressed pizza. So the pizza goes back in the oven for the second baking, and this time it goes on the middle shelf, or above just below the middle shelf. It's going to bake for roughly 15 to 20 minutes. Our pizza is cooked to a lovely golden brown. Doesn't this look delicious? Perfect. I hope you enjoy making your own gluten-free pizza. To find the recipe, go to my website at carolfenster.com or any of my cookbooks, including my most recent one, Gluten Free 101.